Well, hello, Power Partners. Welcome to our informational playground. This is Star Style. Be the star you are. We're coming to the airwaves under the auspices of Be the Star You Are charity. And we're broadcasting on the Voice America Network, the Empowerment Channel. I am your host, Cynthia Brian. The miracle moment for today is brought to you by Be the Star You Are. You can visit the charity at bethestaryouare.org. And this is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. What you are stands over the while and thunders, so that I cannot hear what you say to the contrary. So that is, we have to think about that because what we're going to talk about today in segment one, we're going to be talking about fevers. And if you have a loved one that has a fever, if you have a fever, do you know what to do? I mean, some people run, cooler, and some people run higher than that 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. But doctors are considering anything over 101.5 a fever. So, what causes it and how dangerous is it? And then in segment two, we have a special guest for you, and it is the author Keiko O'Leary. She wrote this lovely book called Your Writing Matters 34 Quick Essays to Get Unstuck and Stay Inspired. So we will be talking to her. She has a lot of fun and insightful references. She uses literature and poetry, science fiction, pop culture. And you'll be motivated to write. Well, getting right into fevers. Fever, I've got the fever. How do you break a fever? I mean, getting a fever can be both really unpleasant and very scary. And we do need to know what we need to do when we have a fever and why it might not be as important as you think. And this is the information is coming from infectious disease specialists. So, first of all, what's considered a fever? We think of a fever as a body temperature above 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. But some people, as I said earlier, run cooler, some people run warmer. So, a high temperature for one person could just be a very routine fever for the next. But most physicians will consider a fever of 101.5 degrees Fahrenheit or higher for people who are over 2 months of age and 100.5 degrees or higher if the baby is under 2 months. But a low grade fever, we generally mean is closer to 101.5, which is not particularly debilitating, and that's for adults. But those that have some underlying medical conditions, including anything from kidney disease to asthma to cancer, always you got to consult with a healthcare provider. And that way you will get advice on how a fever could be more significantly related to some underlying disease or an underlying cause. So, what causes a fever? Fever is an adaptive immune response when something is wrong in your body. Usually an infectious disease like a flu, a cold, or COVID. Some fevers stem from bacterial infections, like if you have cellulitis, or you have a bone infection, or you have pneumonia or strep throat. And then there's non infectious causes of fever. They can occur as well, including childhood leukemia, or if you have inflammatory bowel disease, or if you have some kind of autoimmune disorder. Now, surprising, you might also run a fever after getting vaccinated. But what that means is the shot is working. It's exercising your immune system against the illness that the vaccine is designed to protect you from. So that's a good thing. And these are typically very low grade fevers. They might last a day or two. And certain vaccines are more reactogenic, meaning people may have a high fever accompanied by a feeling of chills. And that was definitely observed by the public with the mRNA vaccines for COVID-19 prevention. I remember getting my first COVID prevention shot when it first came out, and I was sick for like 4 days, and I literally couldn't get my head off the pillow. But while I was like so sick, I was so happy because I felt, oh, I'm going to be protected from COVID because I had had friends die in the early stages of COVID when there was not a vaccine. So it was a very, I felt COVID was very, very scary. And even to this day, I still, when I go to grocery stores or if I'm in a crowded place, I wear a mask. I always wear a mask at an airport and always on a plane. So, fever symptoms. Elevated body temperature could be accompanied by chills and a general kind of a malaise. It includes that you just feel run down or you feel tired, fatigued. And many symptoms that we typically associate with fever, such as nausea, muscle aches, or loss of an appetite, actually are symptoms of the condition causing the high temperature. Like I had a lot of muscle aches when I first got my COVID. The more shots I got, I pretty soon nothing, nothing happened. But the first one really did affect me. So, how dangerous is a fever? It's not nearly as dangerous as most people think. A high temperature is not going to cook your brain. It's not going to cause lasting damage. If the fever isn't keeping you from hydrating or caring for the underlying illness, you needn't try to bring it down just to see a lower number on the thermometer. But people that have underlying health conditions should consult with their healthcare provider to best understand how to manage a fever. And when I say that a fever isn't dangerous, just keep this in mind. There are diseases like meningitis and encephalitis that come with very high fevers, and they do cook your brain. And so, if you are really, really, really sick and you have a fever, you always need to call your physician. And you should be concerned if that fever persists more than 3 days, and especially if you're having any breathing problems or if you have like really severe stomach aches or if you just can't hydrate. If you're elderly or you have any chronic medical conditions, the best thing is to contact your doctor at the very first sign of fever and describe your symptoms because some illnesses can be more severe in certain populations, like in the elderly or with a chronic medical condition. And you could benefit from early treatment, and your doctor would be able to let you know what that is. So, breaking the fever, bed rest, hydration, and cool compresses do not break a fever. I know it's kind of a wives' tale. We think it will, but that what they do is they comfort us. They comfort us as a sick person. So the only real way to break a fever is with over-the-counter ibuprofen or an aspirin or treating the underlying illness if it's a bacterial infection like in pneumonia or if it's an ear infection that requires antibiotics. So the home remedies like chicken soup, they're harmless and they're comforting, but they're really not going to break a fever, but they do make you feel better. And if your family has a favorite remedy that you're wondering about, why don't you ask your doctor if it's okay to use that remedy with any over-the-counter fever reducers? Because you don't want to mix medications or mix herbs with things that could be dangerous for you. So, bed rest, hydration, and cool compresses, as I said, are only going to comfort you. They're not going to break the fever. And beware, don't ever give a feverish person an ice bath. We think that's a smart idea, but not only will this not break the fever, it's going to put a lot of stress on the body. And that's a very scary thing. Well, you're listening to Cynthia Brian. This is Star Style. Be the star you are. We're going to have a business bite. And when we come back from the business bite, I'm going to be introducing our guest author, Keiko O'Leary, with her book, Your Writing Matters. Don't go away. Please stay with me. This is Cynthia Brian, and this is Star Style. Be the star you are. How do you beat business burnout? Working in any industry is tough. It's challenging. There's long hours, stress, And run-ins, of course, with Murphy's Law, it can make anyone a candidate for burnout. Burnout can also result in serious emotional and physical problems, as well as a decline in profits. So, here are a few tips for beating the burnout blues. Identify the symptoms that are affecting your performance. Do the most important things first. Stop talking and start listening. Exercise. Catch people doing something right. Then take a break, or maybe better yet, take a vacation. Help someone else. Vent your frustrations. Reevaluate what's really important in life and do something that's 360 degrees different from the business you are in and do it just for fun. And then take a deep breath. Laugh more. Remember, you're the star of your own performance. Turn your passions into profits. I'm Cynthia Brian with another business bite from Star Style. For more information, visit cynthiabrian.com. That's Cynthia Brian, Brian with an I.com. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for tuning in every week here on Star Style. Be the star you are with me, your personal growth success coach, Cynthia Brian. We hope that you get some expert advice in fun and success from also renowned authors around the globe because you can change your life and make your dreams come true. For more information about Star Style Productions or to purchase any of my books, please visit cynthiabrian.com. For information about the charity, visit Be the Star You Are nonprofit, and that's at BeTheStarYouAre.org. And you can find book reviews from our teens there as well. My aim is always to encourage, inspire, inform, amuse, and motivate. See beyond your physical being. Know you are already the star you dreamed of becoming. Cherish the past, dream of the future, and celebrate every moment of your life. And read a book this week. And I do suggest if you'd like to be a writer, Your Writing Matters is a good one. Also, be kind, be inclusive, tell the truth, live with integrity, embrace cultures, love unconditionally, encourage others, be generous, read, lead, succeed, communicate, collaborate, innovate. And until next week, when we celebrate once again, remember that love always wins, kindness always prevails, and smiles keep us happy. I am Cynthia Brian for Star Style, thanking you and encouraging you to be your unapologetically authentic self. Go out in the world and be the star you are. Thanks for joining me. Well, welcome back to Star Style, Be the Star You Are. I'm your host, Cynthia Brian. And as I said at the top of the hour, I am so excited to introduce you to our guest today, author Keiko O'Leary. She has written this lovely little meditation book called Your Writing Matters. It's 34 quick essays to get unstuck and stay inspired. She is the poet laureate of Cupertino, California. She teaches workshops and organizes writing groups where she welcomes everybody called It's Right to the End. I love that. She's also an editor, an artist, and of course, a speaker. Welcome, Keiko, to Star Style. Be the star you are.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I'm so glad to be here, and I welcome everyone who's listening. I'm glad that you're all here too.
Well, let's start with the welcome. That was something that just knocked me right away when I started reading your book and how welcoming you are because you believe in it. And you started your introduction about your family and going to the Montana, the family reunions. But why don't you just give us a little bit of background because you kind of use that welcoming to for the rest of your life here for the right to the end and your writing groups that you facilitate.
So, my heritage on my mom's side is Japanese, and on my dad's side is Caucasian, mostly Irish. And his family, my dad's, lives in Montana. We have a family reunion called the O'Leary Family Picnic. And I remember when I was a kid, it was, we mostly were around white people. And especially in Montana, my recollection of the family picnic and pretty much everyone that I met in Montana, which is a wonderful, welcoming place that I love. And everyone has always treated me wonderfully there. But we were the only white, or I'm sorry, my
You
sister
were
and
the
I were the
brown
only
girls.
non-white. Sorry?
I was going to say you were the brown kids,
Yes,
right?
we were the brown kids, exactly. But we never, and so even in California, people were always asking us, "What are you?" And we'd have to say, "Oh, we're half Japanese." But in Montana, in the family picnic, nobody ever treated us as half O'Leary. We were 100% O'Leary. And everybody at that picnic was 100% O'Leary. So I, my feeling about writers is that writers are a family too. And you're 100% writer. You 100% belong to this family if you can look into your heart and see the desire to write. So maybe you're afraid, you don't want to call yourself a writer. It's like, oh, well, I don't know if I could really, dare to call myself a writer. But if you know that you want to write, you are a writer and you
Hmm.
can accept yourself as part of this family
Well, you know
and be
that I
welcomed.
love that, and I want to just give people the spelling of your name. We say Keiko, but it's spelled Keiko. It's a great spelling, but I think that's such a great analogy of being welcoming. I find that writers are a welcoming group, and but one of the things, and you bring this in your book again, Your Writing Matters, is so often we have that imposter syndrome. And I mean, I even know for myself, I've been on the New York Times bestseller list, been writing for the newspaper for 18 years. I've got 12 books out. Sometimes I still feel like an imposter, and many people that I have interviewed who are best-selling authors feel the same way. So, what is a recommendation, especially for people who are starting out, to not feel like they're not good enough, because this is something you addressed in your workshops that you do.
So I have two recommendations. The first one is to start keeping a compliments list where every time somebody compliments you, you just write it down. So
Hmm.
somebody says, "Oh, you look great today." Then you write
Hmm.
down your compliments list. Looks great.
Hmm.
Um, Somebody says, "Oh, remember that story you wrote about such and so thing a few years ago?" And you write down in your compliments list. People remember her stories. Anything that someone says to you, it helps you see yourself from the outside. I actually got this exercise from my mentor, Sam Bennett, um, and I have really changed because of it, and I've seen other people change because of it.
Well, Keiko, I have been an acting coach for film and television for a few decades, and this was one of the lessons or the exercises that I teach all of my clients, but I call it how great I am. And it's the same thing is that you, in a book or a computer, you don't write down the but, like if somebody says you have beautiful hair, but, your clothes are, you don't write down, you just write down a beautiful hair. Or like you said with writing, I really love that piece. Oh, I love that piece. And then when you look at it, so I was so happy to see this in your book because I really think that this exercise applies to everything. Doesn't matter what industry, whether, it's writing or acting or speaking, we all need that little boost. And so when you're having a down day, if you can go back and look at your compliments list, you will realize, like you say in your book, Your Writing Matters, people are saying amazing stuff about me all the time. I think that's a really great tip. So, and now your second tip.
My second tip is this is like the foundation of what I think people should do. Seek out community. So look
Mm,
for other writers, try to find a writing group, try to find people who will believe in you. There's an essay in my book, How to Believe in Yourself.
hmm
And I I got a fortune cookie one time that said, believe in yourself and others will too. And I thought, but what if you don't believe in yourself? How are you supposed to that doesn't make
Uh-huh.
any sense. But what I've learned from being part of a writing group is if you hang around people who believe in you, you'll eventually start to believe in yourself.
Yes. And I totally agree with you. I think belief in ourselves is absolutely critical. And I do think we all have to have a cheerleader. I love the idea of having a writing group or other writers that can cheer you on. But if you're not in an area or you don't want to do it over Zoom or something, or you're not going to go to someplace, even if you have one person who you really trust, who can keep you on track and who believes in your success, that's what we need. And then we do have to believe in ourselves and all the possibilities. Because if we don't believe in ourselves, why would anybody else? I mean, I always think, why would anybody want to hook their wagon to my horse if my horse is standing still, So you got to believe in yourself. But
Well, I think
how do you
it's
find a
true.
writing group? Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Um, I think it's okay not to believe in yourself at first because you have to start from where you are.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a situation where you don't believe in yourself, but you know you want to become eventually someone who believes in themselves, um, seek out community, seek out people who can start to believe in you that then can, give you compliments and you can start to see yourself from the outside. You can um, take action and learn that, oh, I can do this. I actually wrote something. I finished something.
Well,
Then
and
you
getting
can.
to that finished part, you have a wonderful chapter called Get Results Faster by Using Bright Spots. And you talk about bright spot number one, serving dinner. And I really enjoyed that example so much because it's so simple and it's something that anybody can do. You want to just explain what your bright spots are, to how, or it could be this, you have another one, sending a newsletter, how people can use these bright spots.
So this idea comes from a book by Chip Heath and Dan Heath, and I'm blanking on the title of the book right now, but it's I think the subtitle is How to Change Things When Change is Hard or something
Yeah,
like
it
that.
was Switch, How to Change Things
Switch.
When Change is Hard by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, so they talk about bright spots are like places where something's already working. So in my example, I said, "Oh, I'm terrible at, producing a product on a consistent schedule," thinking about how I wanted to write blog articles for my writing group's website. And but I had just read this book by Chip Heath and Dan Heath, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to look for bright spots. What do I
Hmm.
produce on a consistent schedule? Dinner. I publish dinner every night at 6 p.m. That's amazing.
It is amazing. That's really good.
So I started to, look for the what they teach you to do is to look for the qualities of the bright spot. Like what about the bright spot that you found makes that actually work? So I talk about this more, of course, in my book, Your Writing Matters. Um, and the basics is like for me, the serving dinner. I said, okay, well, people are waiting for this dinner, so that's an audience. Um, there's a deadline. We got to eat, more or less by
Right.
6 o'clock. If it's 9 o'clock, that's just not going to work out. Kids have to go to bed. Um, and oh, now I forgot the last thing was.
Well, because what you end up doing is you have an audience, right? Because the people are counting on you. And so that to me transcribes to whether you're going to do a blog or a newsletter or write for the newspaper or start your book is that you give a deadline and then you realize that people are counting on you. So we just have to find our own bright spots. And I think it's a great approach. Now, I'm going to another chapter because I like this one a lot. It's don't show your work to your friends. You already talked about how everybody has to start where they are. And the point is that none of us are skilled in the beginning. If we look back on our first writing, it's probably crappy. However, you call that the Don McLean, the Don McLean kind of method or something. But the point is that people may not understand what it is that you are doing, right? And
Yes.
so we can't really count on it. Like I have never shown any of my writing to my husband until my book is published or to the newspaper comes out because I really don't want his opinion. I just don't. He'll find something that he doesn't like, but once he sees it, he usually loves it. So I think that's a really good tip from your book is just start where you are. Don't worry about being unskilled in the beginning and just keep writing. Let's see.
Oh,
I'm
I would like to
talking.
say something about that if you
Yes,
don't mind.
please.
Um, the it's hard. A lot of times people want to show their work to someone who cares about them because, they want to get some feedback or they, want to say, oh, I made this. Um, and I've just seen it happen so many times. Um, People who aren't writers have only ever read published work.
Right,
So
right.
they don't know how to understand what you're showing them.
Right. And it could really hamper you. I mean, that's why I thought this was an important chapter because I have heard so many other people say, oh, yes, I show all my writing to my friends. I like your idea of stick with a writing group, stick with someone or a coach or a mentor who really knows about writing and can help you and give you constructive feedback, not give you, feedback that they think came from their English teacher or something. So
Right. Yes.
I really,
Yes.
I really think the writing group. Now, do you have, we don't have too much time left, but what are the tips you might have to avoid writer's block? And just in case anyone's just joining me, we're talking to Keiko O'Leary. Her book is called Your Writing Matters, 34 Quick Essays to Get Unstuck and Stay Inspired. And that get unstuck is what I'm asking her about now, because we all get writer's block.
So my top advice for how to avoid writer's block is not something that you would um, I've heard anyone else say, and it is to welcome all writing. So it doesn't mean publish all writing. It doesn't mean you have to like what you write. You can just welcome it and then, throw it away. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you allow anything to come through you and you don't try to make it be what you want it to be, then you'll be able to sustain your life as a writer over time. My goal is to cultivate writers, like that's my work in the
Right.
world.
That's what you do.
And the way that I have seen to have a sustainable writing life over a long period of time is to just welcome all writing. And then once you've got the writing, you can do something, you can choose what to do with it, right? You can publish some of it, you can throw some of it away, whatever you want to do, change it all around. But just continue to welcome writing is
Whatever
the way to
comes.
prevent writer's block.
Well, and what you're saying is, well, writers write. So if you want to be a writer, just write. And as you said, you don't have to love it all. You don't have to publish it all. Just do it. Like the Nike said. What I've always done,
Sometimes harder than,
if I feel I'm blocked, I have to go out into nature. And
oh,
as
that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure other people do it, but if I go out into nature, I either go work in the garden, pull some weeds, or especially if I'm by water, something about water, I just get all these ideas. And, I keep thinking, oh, I wish my brain was a computer. And then it's like it just starts to flow. But I like the idea of just keep writing. And I mean, do whatever you can. I think do whatever
Well,
you
yeah, you have found something that works for you. I think everyone has to try to look for what works for them. Like
Right.
going back to the bright
That
spots
really
idea.
works for me, and that's a really good point. Find what works for you. I have one last question. I want to go and then we'll give your website so people can find your book. And I loved that chapter. Well, I liked it all, but the one that's do it more. When somebody tells you to take something out, maybe the solution is to do it more. I've had that experience in the past, and I had never heard anybody say that except for you. And I actually did that with a book one time and it worked. So just talk
Yay.
about do it more. I've never heard that advice. And I just thought, this is brilliant because I do know that works.
Thank you. I actually learned this from painting. I had a watercolor painting that had a lot of purple, um, or I don't know, no, it had a lot of blue, I guess. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And then there one corner had purple in it, and somebody in a critique said, "Oh, you should take out that purple. It's messing up the composition."
Mhm.
And so in watercolor, you can't take things out very easily.
No, you got to put
Um,
something in.
but I realized that if I just added purple all over the place in other places, then it fixed it.
Yes. Yes.
And that also works in writing. If something is like bugging you because it's standing out, the solution could be, might not be. You have to try and see, but it could be to do it more in multiple places and then see if that fixes it.
Well, it's just such a very inspirational book. I do feel that I love the size of it and all the different essays and the personal stories. The book is called Your Writing Matters: 34 Quick Essays to Get Unstuck and Stay Inspired. Keiko O'Leary. Her website is keikooleary.com, but let me spell Keiko for you. It's Keiko.Oleary.com. And you, Keiko, you said you had another website that's even easier to get.
Yes, so I realized that my name is fairly hard to spell. So I created a URL that redirects people to keikooleary.com. So you can just type in soundslikecake.com, all one word, because my
Oh,
first name sounds like the
that
word cake.
sounds like cake. Okay, so soundslikecake.com, and you will get to her website. And she has social media, etc. And then as I said earlier, she has a long-standing writing group called Write to the End. Thank you so much, Keiko, for coming on Star Style Be the Star You Are. I wish you great success in your writing and all of your clients' writings and all of the people that you are inspiring in the writing group. And how wonderful that you have this group that is together. Thanks so much for being on Star Style, Be the Star You Are.
Thank you, Cynthia. It was a delight to speak with you.
It was so much fun. Thank you.